Welcome back to the Cycle Spotlight. This is our third edition, and if you're new here, this is where I'm speaking with industry leaders about all things software engineering and DevOps through the lens of our platform, Cycle.io. And I'm really excited to have back on Jake Warner, founder and CEO. And Jake, I want to focus on something that came out last week around the hiring data nationally. And it kind of revolves around the conversations that we've had with companies over and over again, the past 3 months or so. And it involves hiring freezes, it involves layoffs, etc. So just kind of wanted to dive in and get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean that's you're right. It's something that we've seen internally. We've had a number of conversations about it, but yeah, I mean the hiring data that we saw last Friday really solidified it. Like again, I think internally over the last few months we've all had these conversations of like, man, there's a lot of companies that are doing hiring freezes right now. There's a lot of companies that are doing layoffs, or there's just all these companies are trying to become more capital efficient, right? And it's while it's not particularly a good thing for some of these hiring freezes and layoffs, at least for developers, the hiring data, the good part about it, at least for us, is that it was kind of clarity to what we internally have been seeing over the last 3 months.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And why do we think that companies now are trying to become more capital efficient than they were?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone actually fully knows. I mean, obviously each company individually has their own reasons, but as this big trend we're seeing, I don't know if anyone really knows. I mean, yes, it's definitely election. It's an election year, and so I think that there's some kind of worries around that. But then at the same time, stocks are at an all-time high. Although last Friday was the worst day in 4-ish years in the market. But with stocks being at an all-time high, I think that there's a lot of people that are just expecting a correction, and maybe Friday was the start of that. But no one really knows how big that correction may be, and with no one knowing what's going to happen with the election, I think everyone's just kind of playing it safe right now.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, and that resonates through the conversations that we've had with multiple companies. And at the same time, we've heard directly from developers in our own community that they've been having a hard time, looking for and finding jobs. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting because there are some super talented developers and engineering leaders that are in our community. Maybe they worked at a company in the past that used Cycle, or for whatever reason how they ended up in our community. But it's really interesting because some of them are really, really talented developers. With 10 plus years of experience. They've worked at huge companies. They've led engineering teams of 20, 30 plus people, and so. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's a pretty hard time it's a pretty hard time right now to find a job, and so for a lot of developers out there, if you're a developer who's watching this, that you're currently looking for a job, I guess the one thing that I want to share is it's not just you. The number of people in our network, in our community, in the ecosystem that we've kind of found ourselves in that are going through the same thing right now. It's not just any one person right now.